basically to Sean. And I'd like to have Sean give his comments on the sales tax and the transfer to the M funds, and Rich Bay as far as the unemployment insurance. My concern is, what about the people that are on unemployment right now? We have to pay them. So these are just my questions. I got 3. Sean first, if you could, please. Do you agree with these changes, or is there any ill effect of any of this?
Correction.
My only concern, I think it's a huge gamble with sales tax. Yes, we are approaching this number this year, but they say you never can compare. Right now, fourth quarter is down a little bit from last year, but I do believe this is a huge gamble you're taking, increasing at 650,000.
Okay. You comfortable with a different number? I mean, really, let's be realistic. This thing is going to get passed today.
Like I said, my only concern with blowing these numbers way up like this, it could be an artificial way to use additional fund balance.
Okay. What about the transfer to the M fund? I'm looking at the big numbers. I'm not gonna worry about the smaller ones.
That's really, it's an accounting entry, like I said, and again, I agree that it has to be a transfer. I can't say that I agree taking that out of fund balance to pay it though. The offset to that is usually fund balance.
Okay. Is there any other comments you have to this?
No.
I mean, this is the first I've seen it, so.
Like I said, there's at least 10, 15 lines here. I do agree it's housekeeping.
Okay.
Corrections.
And my other comment is Rich here, or there you go. And somebody has a comment as far as the employment. How about, Sean, can you answer that? I mean, cutting it to
Like I said,
$25,000.
The way we're booking health insurance is different. It's totally new. In years past, we've been way short in health insurance before, but I believe Dominic has got numbers from Benetech. So as long as Benetech is correct in their numbers.
Oh, you're talking
I'm
health
talking
insurance.
about health insurance altogether.
I want unemployment. He's got 25,000, we have 255, he's got it to 25.
I believe to date, and I don't have it right handy in front of me, I believe this year we spent, I'm going to say somewhere in the range of 25 to 35. I don't know where
that's
else.
good enough, okay. All right, you want amendments to this amendment now or later?
You have the floor.
I'd like to make an amendment to this resolution. Okay, I'd like to, the item where it's got $650,000, okay, you want to change it $250,000, that's fine, but 650, I think we're taking a chance. That's number one.
So that $250,000, you want to make $900,000 now, is that what you're saying?
No.
That's what you said.
No, that's what you said. No, I'm saying drop it down to 4. I'm doing this amendment to the amendment.
It's an amendment to the
400,000.
I'm not sure if you can amend an amendment
Yes.
that hasn't been passed yet.
What are you going to
I want to drop that down to like 400,000 if I have to.
26.4?
Yep.
Supervisor Greco,
Yes, sir.
I don't believe that you can amend an amendment that has not been approved yet.
Exactly. You can make
Oh,
recommendations.
You can make a
okay,
recommendation.
all right,
You can
propose
a second.
We'll let everybody else talk and then I'll
Exactly.
come back. No problem.
Okay, so you're done?
Thank you very much, Chair.
You're welcome. Next up, I have Supervisor Barone.
Now, let's go back to, I had proposed a budget that, this should be the budget that I had proposed in committee, the committee of the whole. That we were under the 2% tax cap and everything. Now, what we have here, and we didn't exclude the 2 caseworkers. And the reason we didn't exclude the 2 caseworkers was because, and I can understand where Dominic's coming from. One was in January, the other was in June or whatever. but they had to take exams. And I guess my understanding is that the ones that they had looked at weren't really qualified, but they had to wait for the exams. The exams have finally come through now. And this is why they're, and I guess, I don't want to speak for Mike, but I think, in being here all these years, I know how it goes. And I think right now he has hired probably these two people because the exams have been in. Am I right or am I?
That is correct. The caseworkers, there's two criteria. They have to have a college degree and they have to be tested by the state.
Right.
We did not have candidates on the first list back in January that we selected. They weren't selected, so we had to go and get a test from the state. That takes time. We had the rates down. We tested. We got the results in October. We are interviewing. We've actually interviewed already. We're done. So that's where we're at. We cannot lose these two caseworkers. I could go on with numbers and say where we're at. We need to keep them in there, and that's the reason why.
Well, in answer to Butch too, the proposed budget that we have before us here, before we're amending anything, doesn't increase the $650,000. It doesn't increase anything. And I would propose after too, if we're going to accept this, and then I want to amend all of the other ones individually after, but I'm just saying I had a proposed budget out there, and I thought it was good with every supervisor in chambers, and then we come back and we nickel and dime, and then we're going to find, well, we didn't do this. I thought it was a proposed good budget. It was okayed by the full board, unless I'm cracking up now. But, you know, we keep going back and forth because maybe we have a better idea here. We're going to take $300 here, gas $500. We're going to nickel and dime a lot. And I just don't see it. I really don't see it. That's my, thank you, Jim.
Okay, I've got your hand, Supervisor Chair. I've got Supervisor DeMessa, then Supervisor Wheeler.
I disagree with these changes, and unless they're brought about by Sean, and Sean's had an opportunity to look them all over, and makes changes at that point, I disagree with him. I mean, we're being handed this at the 10th hour here, 11th hour, just 2 minutes before we're going to vote on a budget. Now we have to make decisions on these recommendations that have been brought about. These are some of the same recommendations we tried to get through at the budget meeting the last time around. So my vote is no.
Supervisor Wheeler and Supervisor Stagliano.
I'm good, thank you.
I got you. You're on the list, Bill. Supervisor Stagliano.
Two at a time.
You have your hand up?
I get ahead.
You're next. You're next, then Supervisor Chiara, then Supervisor Strebe.
And that's, I don't know which one to deal with first. Who's got it? You got it? I don't know. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Supervisor Stagliano, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Sean, when you were asked earlier, what was the result of this resolution if it was intact?
This resolution, 843,122
Decrease.
decrease.
So it's a decrease in taxes for the public then. After proposing to, first of all, this never came up, Supervisor DeMessa, that never came up at the November 27th meeting. I didn't propose it. You know, the thing was, there was a Republican caucus, evidently, they didn't like the idea, some members didn't like the idea that there was 5 pages and they hadn't seen it, so the thing was, I could see when they came out on the floor, it wasn't going to go anywhere. My constituents are going to take a 13% tax increase from this. Every one of these suggestions that I made, and a lot of them came from the department heads, the thing was, it is not going to hurt any department. Matter of fact, it helps some of the departments by doing it. If you want to vote against it because you want to vote against me, that's fine. But, you know, don't vote against the taxpayers. They're the ones who are footing the bill. All right? So the thing is the sales tax a stretch? Well, you know, the thing was that when we gave the presentation 6 weeks ago, a month ago, it didn't seem that the projected $15,500,000 was too much. Today it's too much. What this budget actually does is it puts it under that at $15,496,000. So I don't think that that the sales tax projection is excessive. We've had 2 different sales tax projections increases during this budget time of over $1.5 million. I didn't question them because I'm looking at the data that says that the treasurer is right. But the thing is, we're looking at this, so if you want to reduce it, go ahead and reduce it. But what you're doing is you're playing with the taxpayers. So, it's their money. Thank you, Chair.
Supervisor Chiara.
Yeah, I concur with Dominic. You have a situation here, you hear about nickel and diming. That's our job to nickel and dime. I agree with the editorial in the Recorder several weeks ago. It's your job to look at every item. Maybe it's going to take some time, but that's what you're here for, because the ultimate responsibility hangs upon the taxpayer. You're correct. If you got an opportunity here, for instance, the item hospital and medical insurance, which has been discussed by the professionals we brought, of $101,000. If you're going to sit here and say you wouldn't even consider reducing the budget by $101,000, that's irresponsible. You have the opportunity here to reduce this upwards of $800,000. I think the opportunity is before you. You know Dominic is very careful on when he does something. So if you want to sit here and vote against it, that's your privilege. That's the privilege of the floor. I'm going to support it. I think it's necessary to happen, and it just shows that some other extra work was taken. He did have 5 pages up last time, and I know why he pulled it, because there was a caucus. And I want to say what happened to caucus. I'm the lone wolf here. I'm the only conservative here. But I think it's necessary, even if you reduce it $500. It shows that you have the ability to go in and do it. Otherwise, it looks like you just want to say, that's the end of it, forget it, let's go home. I sat in that audience last year when I heard that speech. Have a nice Thanksgiving, have a nice Christmas, everything else, because everything is going to hit you know what next year. Now, you almost did the same thing at the last meeting. It's basically, let's just pass what we got because it's under a percentage. Let's bring it as low as we can. People are hurting out there. I've dealt with this in the job I had for years. I know what goes on in the situation I was in the city of Amsterdam. We can't afford any more. That's the way I feel. You can feel your way. And that's the way I'm going to feel, and that's what I've stated since the beginning. So I'm through with that.
Supervisor Street.
Thanks, Chair. I agree with Mr. Chiara and Dominic. And I'll tell you why. He's 13%. I'm looking at a 7% increase in the town of Florida. If there's ever a time to gamble on a sales tax projection, this is the year to do it. As far as I'm concerned, if we could have possibly reduced the budget more than we had in this process, it would have been a good thing, but it did not happen. Here's an opportunity to make it happen at no loss of services to any individuals or employees. I'll support it to the full $650,000. Thank you, Chair.
Supervisor Barone.
Bill, there is a loss of employees. There's two
women.
employees that are going to be lost that
Empty
he's trying
positions.
that he's trying to hire. And you sat in that session with us, and we talked about it, and it was okay then, but now it's not okay. Listen, I have no problem. I'm not raising anybody's taxes, and the city of Amsterdam definitely isn't going up. We're going to be minus again. The $650,000 is fine, and Dominic is saying we're going to save 300 and some thousand. When we raise that sales tax by 650,000, that's going to bring. I don't know. What if we only hit it by 110,000? Now we've got a shortfall. We're going to go right into the fund balance. So it's you're good if you do. You're good if you don't. I don't know. Everybody reads the Recorder too much, I think. Half of them live out of the town. Nobody even lives in the city of Amsterdam or in the county. But here we sit and fight every day up here to try to help the taxpayer, which pays all the taxes, the high taxes. I pay them myself. But I'm just saying here, I think it's unrealistic to take those 2 caseworkers out of his budget when they were put in. And that's the only one I'm fighting for. The rest, what's it going to impact? What's it, 60-some thousand dollars? That's all I'm looking at. I agree with you. You want to take a gamble on the sales tax? I agree with you. Maybe this is the time to take that gamble. If we fall short, but remember one thing, it's going to come out of fund balance. So you guys like to complain and moan about depleting fund balance. I don't. I told you, I deplete it right down to 0. And then see how smart the board is next year or the year after with no money. Thank you, Chair.
Supervisor Domestic.
Well, again, I'll just say that, you know, I've said this numerous times.
I see
that-
everybody else raising their hand. I'm sorry, Tom.
I've said this numerous times that the board has done a good job over the past several years in keeping this budget down and keeping the costs down to the taxpayers. Most of the towns, the majority of towns in this room are paying less than they were in 2006. If you look at the tax rates, take a look at the tax rates over the period of time.
They don't have any money, Tom.
Look at the tax rates, okay? They're paying less than they were in 2006. The majority of towns. It's in Sean's office. Take a look at it. He'll do a printout for you. So I think we've done a pretty good job in keeping the rates pretty constant over the years and not going up. The rates have not gone up. You could say the tax levy has gone up, but that hasn't affected the rates at all. So here we are trying to argue about the budget when I thought we had a pretty good agreement that we had a fair budget and it was fair to everyone. It was fair to the taxpayers, it was fair to the county, and nobody was losing their job. Now we're taking positions out. Dominic has been against social services all year. Go back and look at the resolutions that he's voted against social services all year long. Now here again, we're taking out money from the social services department, where you need these caseworkers. Now more than ever, you need caseworkers out there. Not only the elderly are dependent on it, but the children are dependent on those caseworkers. And we're gonna take those caseworkers out of the mix. It doesn't make any sense, especially in today's day and age. We need caseworkers out there. Don't destroy his position because you might have a vendetta against him or his department. Doesn't make any sense at all. So, that being said, like I said, take those out of there. I don't know. I still can't agree with some of these other ones anyways.
You done, Tom?
I'm done.
Supervisor Stagliano, then Supervisor Strebe and Quackenbush.
You got two cracks out of it before we... Let him speak.
Are you fine with that,
She's been chomping
Supervisor
at the
Strebe?
bit.
What I've got to say is only gonna take 1 second.
Go ahead.
I sat right here at one budget year and saw $1 million withdrawn from the fund balance so that Tribesville could see a flat tax increase.
1.6.
Now, you guys are looking at this here tonight, that may mean a 3% reduction in the county tax rate, which will help the town of Florida and the town of St. Johnsville, and you're balking at it. I understand there's a little issue over 2 empty positions that have been empty for quite a while, but sales tax projections, we've exceeded our sales tax projection this year's budget, and hopefully we'll do it again in next year's budget. Give the people a break, will you? They're not asking for too much. Thank you, and I won't talk again.
Supervisor Quackenbush.
Thank you.
Welcome.
There's a whole lot on this piece of paper that I believe our treasurer even said made sense. I think he may have said 15 resolutions with housekeeping alone, whether or not you're debating. I mean, there's some resolutions on here that if you just didn't do them, your budget wouldn't be accurate because it's house cleaning. So I don't believe that you should just throw the whole thing out. In regards to the caseworkers, I know we've already had this discussion, and I believe, Mike, you said that these were cost neutral. I know there's some debate over whether that is totally accurate or not, but for the most part, they are or they aren't. So does this resolution include the revenue that should be taken out if we were going to eliminate it? And if we were going to vote on this, then you would need to take that revenue also possibly out of there. You know, and people can argue with me if they want. Last year, a little bit before this date, it was around November, I heard that when we got done with our budget, we had $1.8 million left. That's what I heard, $1.8 million. By March, we ended up having a $5.5 million fund balance. Some will argue and say that, well, that's because it was the odd, and Dominic and I have had this discussion. He's right. But back then, we only had 1.8 million. Somehow it seems to, you know, by the time the audit comes out, it grows. I'm supporting this resolution to decrease it. I'm supporting raising the sales tax because it is a guess, it's always a guess. If you want to, you know, modify that number a little bit, whatever, but don't throw this whole resolution out for whatever reason. I mean, I think it's foolish for us not to do the house cleaning in here and everything else that exists. If you got a problem with the caseworkers, and again, if they're neutral, then let's have the debate about those two positions and move it on. But let's not hold the whole thing hostage if we agree on most of it. You know, if it takes us an extra half an hour to go down through this and have Sean, if that's what it takes, to agree that, yeah, you know, association dues are 0 to 6,000 or don't join the group, you know, I mean, if that's what we need to do to sit here and do that. I mean, this is the only time of the year that we actually end up with this budget in front of us, and it's the end of the game now. So why wouldn't we go through that process? There's been a lot of work done with this hospital and medical insurance this year. And if we hire people to give us advice, and they say to us, you can reduce by $101,458, why the hell would we do that? They're the ones we're hiring to tell us this. It just doesn't make sense to me why we wouldn't. So again, to throw this whole thing out is ridiculous. We need to look at it. The unemployment insurance, absolutely right. We laid nobody off. Even whether you fund the caseworkers or not, if you haven't hired them on, you're not laying them off. So why would we keep a number that high in there and just vote against this just to vote against it? Let's at least pull apart what we all agree on. There's a heck of a lot here that we all agree on. Cousin. Thank you.
Are you completed? Supervisor Stark?
I would just make a suggestion is that I think the majority of these we probably all agree on. And I would just say as a suggestion, maybe if people vote, you know, voiced which particular number they were uncomfortable with, we could pull them out of the resolution, vote on these, on the resolution, and then come back for discussion on those. I'm not comfortable with rolling the dice for $650,000. All right, I think that's foolish. The caseworkers are cost neutral, as I understood from the beginning. We should pull those out for a separate discussion. And the rest of these are housekeeping, so why can't we just agree to pull out the ones that we want to have further discussion, vote on it, get most of them off the table, and come back to it.
I would agree with that.
Okay, I remind you that this is an amendment. This isn't a resolution, this is an amendment. So hopefully we're clear on that
Yeah,
point.
but Chair, the sponsor, listening to all this, the sponsor himself and the second can pull 2 items out, 3 items out,
Sure
and
they
say, we'll talk about that after.
They have that opportunity.
I asked about it. The two.
Once I get a chance to speak.
No, I'm just saying, because they're saying we can't vote on the amendment, and they're right, we can't, but the sponsor and the second can do an awful lot. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay. I have Supervisor Wheeler. Next.
All right, I would support that. I would support what Supervisor Stark just said. So, thank you. I'll let you.
Okay, before you speak, Supervisor Stagliano, I would like an opportunity to speak. I support your amendment. I'm sorry?
Did you raise your hand, Chairman?
No, I did not. I support the amendment. There was considerable debate about the $4,000 that got put back into OFA. I suggest to you that by adopting this amendment, you're going to have a far greater benefit given to the seniors of this county that own their properties, that are trying to stay in their homes. You're going to have a better benefit to them than that $4,000 you just put back into OFA. You're going to allow the tax levy to stay somewhat stable. You're going to allow them to continue to buy their meds that we continue to hear about, that they have to make choices between buying fuel, paying their taxes, buying food. By amending this and keeping your levy stable, you're going to help them far more. So with that, Supervisor Stagliano, I yield.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I sit here year after year, and I find this. I'm gonna pull the two social service positions out, because that was no big deal. Those were two slots that were not filled, one since January, one since June. If it was so urgent, then you would have filled the slots earlier. What we did is we taxed people for vacant positions. Having said that, we talk about, is this a gamble on sales tax? And I sit there and I look at these numbers. In 2007, we budgeted 13 million for our sales tax revenue. We took in 14 and a half. So somebody can say, geez, we tax some people really unnecessarily. In 2008, I gave this presentation, but you know, my friend from Amsterdam wasn't there. In 2008, we budgeted 14.5 and we took in 15.5. And then you take in the next couple of years, we budgeted 14.650 and took in 14.1. Now, I'm not the one who put those numbers in, but I'll bet you my numbers today are better than those numbers that were done then. And I have no problem with justifying the 650. When we want to talk about health insurance, in 2010, we were $1 million short. $1 million short in the line for health insurance. In 2011, we were $800,000 short. I didn't put those numbers together. Others did. So the thing is, when you want to talk about numbers, don't talk to me about numbers, because I've seen phony numbers coming through here for years. So if you want to vote on it, I'll pull those two, the two from social services, and if my co-sponsor agrees, and then we can put it up and let the public know whether this board values them, the taxpayers, or values themselves. That's all. Thank you, Chair.
Supervisor Stark.
I would just ask Dominic if there's any way that you would amend the line 9, the sales and use tax.
I'm absolutely positive.
Down to 300.
No, I'm absolutely, you know why? Because when you do it at 300, you got to take out what you would pay to the other governments. So the thing is, you end up with probably out of 300, you end up with 260 or 240. The thing is, I'm absolutely sure that this number in today's economy is solid. And so I refuse to take it out.
Okay, further discussion on the amendment. Supervisor DeMaio.
Just one quick statement. I didn't know a budget was supposed to be pinpoint accurate. I know as long as I've been doing budgets for the last 30 years,
What are we arguing about?
they have been estimates.
They're estimates.
They're estimates.
Thank you. You made my point.
Yeah.
Okay, on the amendment, roll call, please.
Chair.
I'm sorry, Supervisor Drazkowski.
Clarify that amendment again for all of us?
The amendment is this sheet minus the two caseworkers for social services.
Thank you.
239s,
Thank you.
and obviously you'd have to adjust the bottom line numbers to reflect that. Roll call, please.
Supervisor Stagliano.
Yes.
Supervisor Grieco.
No.
Supervisor Stark.
No.
Supervisor Barone.
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Yes.
Supervisor Chair.
Yes.
Supervisor DeMeza.
No.
Supervisor Allen.
Yes.
Supervisor Sullivan.
Yes.
Supervisor Streety.
Absolutely.
Supervisor Coddington.
Yes.
Supervisor Quackenbush.
Yes.
Supervisor Radzikowski.
Yes.
Supervisor Sweet.
Yes.
Chairman Thayer.
Yes.
The motion to amend is passed.
Resolution as amended. Further discussion. Supervisor Barone.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify one thing though, too. I was part of the budget that Bill's referring to, how we took out, and Ed Patton was sitting over there. And I did it there. That's the only reason I'm voting on this right now, is to help the two towns that are going to have a pretty difficult time. That's the only reason. I don't care what the recorder writes, I don't care what anybody writes.
We appreciate
That's the way I feel. I don't want to hurt any town. I'm not here, I never was here for all these years to hurt any other town. But if it's going to benefit that little bit, it's not going to benefit that much. You're still going to be around 13% or 12 maybe. But,
Or 9.
But, or maybe, but
Nine's
that's
better than 13.
That's better than 13. So that's why I'm voting. Thank you.
Sean, have you had opportunity to plug any of this in?
Yep.
To get an idea of where you stand?
Know exactly where we stand.
Why don't you read it off for us, please?
I'm looking at a tax levy of $27,418,400, which represents a 0.39% decrease. Using $1,860,624 fund balance, giving you $924,000 under the cap.
How much? I'm sorry.
$929,000.
Under the cap.
Sean, what was the levy again?
27,418,400.
Supervisor Quackenbush, I saw your hand up this time.
Did I hear you right, that the overall tax percentage for the county would go down, what?
0.39%.
It'll go down.
Yes,
That doesn't necessarily mean that all the towns in the city, everybody's down.
that's correct.
Each individual town could go up or whatever.
Correct.
But the overall county budget's down
0.39%.
almost half.
We were at 2.1, are we not, Sean?
Correct.
You done, Supervisor Quackenbush? Supervisor Coddington?
Yeah, my normal question, where does that leave the fund balance roughly? I mean, don't quite break it out.
I would say somewhere 3.5 to 4.5 million.
Thank you.
I can't give you a.
Double what we were last year.
Okay. Further discussion?
What do you want?
Roll call, please.
Chairman Thayer.
Yes.
Supervisor Stagliano.
Yes.
Supervisor Grico.
Yes.
Supervisor Stark.
Yes.
Supervisor Barone.
Yes.
Supervisor Wheeler.
Yes.
Supervisor Triera.
Aye.
Supervisor Demessa.
Yes.
Supervisor Allen.
Yes.
Supervisor Sullivan.
Yes.
Supervisor Strebe.
Aye.
Supervisor Coddington.
Yes.
Supervisor Quackenbush.
Yes.
Supervisor Radzikowski.
Yes.
Supervisor Sweet.
Yes.
The resolution's been adopted as amended.
Motion to adjourn.
Prior,
Second.
just prior, please. Just want to say thank you. I particularly want to say thank you to the Walters for coming in this evening. Please accept our sincerest gratitude for doing that. And you have my number. If there's anything that I can do, absolutely give me a call. And I do wish you a Merry Christmas, Supervisor Stagliano and Strebe.
No, just him.
I'm just wondering, should we set the meeting for the organizational meeting?
You want to do that?
Did we do it?
Yeah, last
First.
No,
It's the first at like 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
No, 11 a.m.
I don't get up. No, until 10.
Supervisor Strebe,
If there's none in the resolution that changed the date of this meeting.
motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. I say it. People at Albany International Airport